Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Well, good morning.
Hello, welcome.
Yeah.
What day is this?
It's
show?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It's
Okay.
July 3rd.
Okay.
Tomorrow's a big day for our country.
Oh, yeah. Independence Day.
Independence Day. And so we're,
Michelle is a little bit
I'm a little foggy.
loopy.
So, this whole thing with the having a cold. Well, yesterday felt so great.
Mm-hmm.
And then we picked up a soda, which from a place called Fizz. I don't know if anyone's ever we've never been there
Utah.
before, but it's kind of one of those just soda places that you can get all the different flavors and everything. So we get it, and I take a sip and I go, that doesn't have very much flavor. And Jim takes a sip and he goes, I can taste this stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. So go home and start to prepare dinner, and I take a taste of something because I cook through my taste buds. It's like, oh, it needs more salt. Oh, it needs more whatever. Nothing. And I've heard people and so it's obviously what we've had around here is COVID. Apparently. I mean, I
knew it was more than a cold, but
and so I'm like, I'm this just freaking sucks because I love cooking. I love food. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there preparing something, and it's like, I have no idea what this tastes like. Mm-hmm. And I
gave her a report.
So we sat down and we ate, and it's like interesting textures. Nothing.
That's
gosh.
Sad. Yeah. I mean, I obviously enjoy food, and that would be difficult. So hopefully it's temporary for you.
I hope so too.
Yeah,
I do.
So she's feeling better. You can see that, I can see in your eyes. Your eyes were definitely,
a little
kind
glazed
of the windows
over
into your illness.
That.
And that too. But yeah, we're glad you're feeling better.
Yeah. So we had planned on today for a while. So we had an opportunity. What announcements do you have before we get going?
Just I guess our V8 stuff. This first of the month is the opportunity for people to get involved in V8. If you're not a member of a V8 dealer group, let's get you in the month of July. We're starting the second half of 2024. It's a good time to get in there, and just you can talk to our fellow dealers. They'll tell you what they're experiencing, and so it's a nice opportunity. And I think I shared before, about 1 in 3 of our members are also members of a 20 group, and they're continuing to do both, and they just find different scratches, different itches, right? And so so it's a nice solution. So we would love to see people get involved in that. We just set the date for our V8 Plus meeting, which is going to be around pricing, and we've got some expert speakers already
some people that have just
going to contribute.
Boom.
I look forward to these conversations. I love to go out and ask the experts about where would you advise a dealer set pricing and why? Right? And so this will be fun.
Exactly.
So that's part of what we're doing with the V8 Plus at the end of July. Otherwise, quick announcements. We got Tracy Myers, the dealer that's pretty well known out of the East Coast, very active in the Carolinas Association. And we've not had a chance to get to know him. So he's going to be on the podcast on Friday. And look forward to talking to him about the event they've got coming up, a mastermind event. I think it's at August 1st.
We have heard such great things about this event.
I look forward to telling him some of what we hear about that.
Yeah.
And I love what they're doing. I love the format. So it's
sounds
like it's really great.
Yeah. Any opportunity we have to have really great education in this industry. Oh my goodness. Eat it up, guys.
Yeah. I would love to be there for his event. And I forget if it's in Charlotte or just where it is, but we'll find out. Friday, come back Friday and meet Tracy with us, and we'll get the details about that event.
Absolutely.
And then Monday, I'm going to talk about charge-off rates. And I hope we've got a woman named Stephanie who was kind of asking the question out there in the Facebook group. I've invited her to come.
Yeah.
And so she and I are to connect today.
That's okay.
No, she messaged me yesterday and said, let's connect and talk today, Wednesday. Okay. And so maybe she'll be a guest. If not, we'll go ahead and bring the topic and kind of while all the information is fresh.
I'm glad because to be able to walk through those kind of things and to answer the questions as someone who's a novice or
she's newer to that
is beneficial to everybody because so many dealers figure things out on their own.
Mhm.
And it may, that there's lots of ways to make things work.
Right.
So
For sure.
yeah.
Yep.
And then one other thing, I talked about it last week. A friend of ours, Eric Johnson from Cook and Hudson Cook, sent us. I want to
sent
say
it to us,
me,
and,
but
the package said both, but I'm not a
I-
reader, so it's all
so
Michelle.
it's me. It's called Car Law F&I Legal Desk Book, 9th edition. It's the answer book for finance and insurance professionals.
Right.
So really, it's a great reference book if you are looking for something that's kind of easy to, instead of, especially with legal things, it's a little scary when we see a dealer ask a question on a public forum and a whole bunch of people that are not attorneys will pipe in and say, it should be this and it should be this. And it's like, there's a lot of speculation.
Yeah. Why don't
And
we leave legal advice to
why don't
the
we leave
attorneys and
legal
legal
advice to the
professionals?
attorneys? But if we ever have a question come up that I
Mhm.
could answer from this,
Okay.
I will quote it.
Okay. Good.
Okay, that's
Nice.
why I'm kind of
Yeah. And I don't know if they sell the book, but it'd certainly be worth buying the thing and
if
having it available.
I'd reach out to Hudson Cook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or reach out to us. We can find them. I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think I'm connected to Eric on Facebook, but I am on LinkedIn, so we can
Okay.
help you get
Very
connected.
good. Very good. Okay. Topic today is from
Is
the
from
conference.
it's from our recap of the we have a recorded conversation with Tim Lawrence from LHPH Capital, and just for, you'll understand as the video starts to roll, but LHPH Capital is one of the first people to step in as founding sponsor with us, and they're one of just 3 founding sponsors. Next Wednesday, by the way, we'll all have the session with Taylor Bird, so it'll be the last of 3, and look forward to that. It was a really great conversation. So
we'll have a 4th though.
A 4th?
Well, we have the 3 founding sponsors, and then we have a 4th conversation that we're gonna talk about too. The one with Gordy.
Oh yeah.
That was a good
recording.
one.
Sure,
that was a really good one.
I was still in the track of founding sponsors, so I thought, something I don't know. So,
well, did we get another founding sponsor? No, we closed that a while ago.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So,
shall we roll the tape?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me bring it in and change the format and go here and do this. Okay, ready?
Okay, we are back for another quick interview at the NIADA 2024 Expo. And we have another one of our founding sponsors here who just swung by to say hey. And so we asked if wanted to come up and be a part of the recordings and the
Happy
broadcast.
to have Tim Lawrence come to the microphones, and with LHPH Capital out of San Diego. You want to give our listeners who are not familiar a little bit of history about LHPH Capital?
Yeah, absolutely. Although I do want to add that I always like hanging out with Jim and Michelle.
Oh, good. Points noted.
Well, and I honestly can't say it enough that the laugh that you have, Michelle, is just so infectious and endearing. Yeah. So whenever I'm listening to the podcast in the morning, it's the laugh that's just
that's why I follow
warms
her
into
around.
my day. Yeah.
That's why it's like, honey, tell me a joke.
Yeah.
Right. Any way to invoke the laugh.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. It's fun.
Yeah.
We have a good time.
Yeah. So LHPH Capital started as LHPH originally in 2010, 11 timeframe. And the concept was really trying to bring in-house leasing to dealers that wanted to either start from scratch or make the conversion. And it was a consulting basis. So it was trying to get all the different factors in place to be able to help a dealer put that program into place. And then around the 2016 timeframe, the owner, Terry Bowdler, realized that, okay, this is okay, but really the biggest challenge is capital for dealers being able to implement these programs. And so we made a pivot in early 2017 to be if we could, the premier capital provider of Lease Here, Pay Here. And what we ended up doing originally was trying to provide as much educational content as we could as the pathway to be able to then be the capital provider.
Yeah.
And so if you look at our website, that's why we have so much content, probably too much content, if you can have too much content.
Right.
Yeah. As long as it's well organized and people can just find what they want to find too. It's like, have it all, because, when there's more, then the off things that people have questions about, they're going to find the answer there. So I really respect that, because we work really hard to try to create as much educational content as we possibly can. And it's all about just turn on the recorder and take the thing and turn it into something that someone can learn from.
There's a comment I wanted to make on this. Tim mentioned that they started just LHPH and trying to teach people about that business model.
Mhm.
And it wasn't about capital. It was about just how do we teach people about that business model. And I know from the interview that we did with Terry Bowdler, who is the founder of LHPH Capital, is he just was like, he was very instrumental in helping build solid foundations for that segment of the industry, and with ethics, and with what are the rules, and going and being a voice for that with regulatory agencies and those kind of things. And so it just a lot of respect there, that it's a capital provider, but the capital provider actually started with trying to what they built it into is education and capital. And it's
Yeah. And I remember hearing from Terry, I don't think Tim talked about it a lot here, but I remember that, and I don't know that we ever made that that conversation with Terry public, but I do recall that he shared in that conversation something I kind of knew about their background. When they first rolled out leasing in California some years ago, they had a lot of problems with, people not disclosing fully. And of course, early leasing, there was a problem with open-ended leases, and then they eventually moved to a closed-end lease. And I could just tell you that Terry Bowdler, as the founder of LHPH at that time, was very much involved in the California Leasing Association, later became National Leasing Association. He'd been very instrumental in those conversations. That was very much around ethics and ethical use of leasing, which is a wonderful tool, but early on it was being misused. Dealers were kind of, they weren't educated enough, and they were not, handling it well. So Tim didn't talk a lot about that part, but that's the history of Terry Bowdler and LHPH Capital. They've kind of been very much in those
capital
conversations.
came in as a secondary thing to be able to they started with education, and then they brought in capital to be able to help the dealers be successful.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of like
we see that the capital need, right?
We do.
Capital crunch.
We do.
From easily. So yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I can say that, in my years around the industry, which is now 20 plus, I can say obviously capital is in demand. You just talked about it was evident that there was a need when you started. Now it's the need is the same or more in terms of the demand for capital. And while we see a number of players in the traditional retail installment contract as a buy here, pay here, we see fewer in the leasing side. And so you guys have stepped in to fill an important solution there. So talk to us about how the capital program works over there.
Yeah, our capital program is pretty simple. The way that we fund on a transaction is that we finance the cost of the vehicle plus reconditioning. And it's not dissimilar to some of the other providers, except that we target each vehicle independently. And so we'll create a amortizing loan on that vehicle that pays principal and interest back to us at the same term as the lease contract. And that creates a payment spread for the dealer customer between the lessee payment that's coming in and the payment that's then coming to us as the lender. And that's the operating cash flow. So we have that as program A. And then we also do a little bit of the traditional borrowing based structure as part of it, depending on what's the right fit for the dealer.
Yeah.
I chose not to call Tim out in the session. I noticed he was sitting in our session today on the exit ramp conversation.
Jim's like, come move forward, everyone. And everyone got up and moved forward.
Right.
I saw that. Yeah.
But I know that amongst the things that made me think of you as the conversation went that direction was this idea of the 3 C's in capital or whatever. That's something I've heard you and I've talked about that in the past. So I'd like for you to go back and share kind of your company's background with ethics. Can we pause that there? Mr. Bowdler's history, you've shared some of that with us. So maybe I looked them up real quick. It's actually the 3 C's of credit. So when people talk about the 3 C's, so I refer to this, but we didn't really dig into it. But the 3 C's are character, capacity, and capital. So he's going to talk about the character piece, but I just wanted to recap for everybody.
Okay.
That's what that is. go back as far as you'd like. We have plenty of time here. Just share with us kind of the ethics track of what your company has been through in Mr. Bowler's history.
So it is really important to us. And when we established our founding values, our core values as a company, it ended up being quite a bit around ethics. So we have 5 core values: grateful, respectful, innovative, trustworthy, and transparent. And with the acronym of
there's
GRIT.
a lot of things that, yeah, I love it, but there's a lot of things there that are very similar to what we have for, yes, White Hat Way.
Exactly. And it
Mhm.
almost bookends. So innovation is in the
Mhm.
middle,
Mm-hmm.
and on the outskirts are a lot of those ethical
yes.
components. And I think the idea is really that we want to treat our not just our customers, our borrowers, but all of the stakeholders. So the end consumer, the dealers that we're lending to. We borrow from lenders, the different industry affiliates, our ownership. We want everybody to share in that sort of clarity and transparency and have trust. And not only that, but just from, we want to make sure that we're providing a product that gets the response of being like, wow, we're grateful that we get to work with LHPH. And same for me. I want to be in a posture of I'm grateful that I get to work with the people that I get to work with, and the dealers. And if you're a dealer borrower and you land really high in the category of character, then it goes even further for us when it gets to the tougher decisions of, is this a dealer that we want to increase our line with and our exposure with?
Right.
Well, we have extended that trust in the past, and we feel like we can extend it even more to be able to help facilitate not only their growth as the dealer borrower, but the success of their dealership, which then really impacts all of their staff and team members and their families. And so the stakeholder conversation really ends up expanding out pretty broadly.
Yeah.
And then there's a greater responsibility for us in what we're doing.
Sure.
We had the opportunity last year at the LHPH LHPH Summit, to sit down with Terry and spend a little bit of time talking to him directly about his background and his why. And I have to say, just really, really impressed with that gentleman, very much so. And it, you know, we frequently talk about culture starts from the top, and it's after having had the opportunity to talk to him for a while, knowing you as well, who is part of that top down of culture. It's just, it makes a lot of sense that the folks that we've had to work with at LHPH Capital are amazing, and they're kind, and they're fun to work with, and they just,
Well, except
all,
Trevor. I mean, Trevor's kind of a problem.
well, he has a
Trevor
little bit of
the
a
worst.
yeah.
No, people can
He's
tell
a
Trevor's close
troublemaker.
by. So
Trevor
that
is
was-
actually almost next to us, which is why he's getting.
No, it's obviously been great to work with. And she's right. The culture piece is significant. I want
It
to circle back to the thing about character, because I'm curious to know, we know that lenders in particular like to see character in their borrowers. And I'm wondering, you know, your borrower is a used car dealer, right? And so I'm curious to know, like, what do you identify in and we're just recording here, right? So
Yeah.
this is a talk,
Just
right?
recording.
Yeah. So,
Casual
2,000 people in the expo
conversation.
hall,
Yeah.
but no, just share with us, like, what do you identify as character in a used car dealer?
You know, the character conversation is interesting because I feel like for us,
It's also an important conversation, and I think it's something that's worth just kind of listening to. What does a company like LHPH define as character?
Yeah, he's going to talk about how theirs has evolved. And while we're paused, I would explain that we apologies for the kind of the ambient noise in the
It
expo
was
hall.
very
Our
loud.
microphones pick up a lot of the, because this is in the expo hall where people are moving about, and so you hear a lot of that. So apologies for the audio.
it's evolved. The earlier parts of the character that we were looking for were, okay, is there a peer recommendation? Are they around in the conferences? Can other people endorse them? Are they in the 20 groups?
Good.
And those are all really important things, I think. And then it comes down to the other things of, are they telling us what's going on in their business accurately? And I think those things are great, and you see them all up front. The evolution part is, what happens when times are a little bit harder, and how does the character of the dealer borrower really come out? And it actually goes both ways, because it's, how does our character come out in those harder times
Right.
too?
That's really an important key.
Yeah.
I think to all of the business relationships, and this can be expand well beyond buy here, pay here,
Mhm.
is when times get tough, how does the customer, which is the dealer,
Mhm.
behave
Right.
and respond, and
Mhm.
how does the business the vendor, the capital provider, respond to the situation that's happening? And I do understand that the way that the customer or the dealer,
Mhm.
it's really interesting when you kind of just flow that down a little bit further downwind, but how the customer handles it, if they are they being open, transparent, honest,
Right.
graceful too, and or are they being evasive, um uh less than honest, uh making excuses or whatever
Yeah, I
for
think the obvious, and I put the thing communication, which I don't know that we actually listed that. By the end of this conversation, you'll hear that we kind of joke about how many C's we threw into this conversation. But
yeah.
communication is, it's a relevant parallel when we think about this relationship between a lender and a dealer borrower. And the obvious parallel is which you take the dealer who is the creditor with the customer and think about what would the
It's the
dealer as the
exact
creditor
opposite.
be looking
Yeah.
for out of the consumer. That
And
would be communication,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
being open and working through the stuff. So,
yeah.
it's not too different
I
here, right?
remember. Do you remember how long ago was it? Earlier this year, that Russell Moore's wife made that comment to him, and he posted it on Facebook. It's like, how dealers were really frustrated, or or the dealers were really frustrated with how they were clamping down on capital, and how
That the lenders were.
or the lenders, sorry,
Mhm.
the lenders were frustrated about that, and that she said, well, isn't that what you guys do to your customer?
Right.
And it's just like, let's keep and that's why I say the customer or the
Mhm.
dealer in this instance, and then the business or the vendor or
Sure.
the capital provider. And so it's those kind of, we've used the word grace a couple of different times, but how well you can navigate those, because he's like, characters, but what happens when things get bad?
Right.
Well, it's when things get bad, both the customer and the business can react negatively.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think it's not, it's another example of the kind of executive and leader that Tim is when he talks about we have to
Mhm.
look at ourselves too
Yeah.
in that, right? It's like you can't just point fingers.
Yep.
You ask yourself, are you doing your part in the
Uh-huh.
communication and in the relationship? So, hats off to him on that part.
too.
Yeah.
And given, the economic environments are much harder now. And so there are harder conversations and there's more challenging aspects in the lender borrower relationship. And so we've seen in some instances where we thought the character was okay. And we have not had any trouble from original high character there that like rank really high. I feel like we've always judged that really well, but it's like we think the character is fine, and that's we've checked the box. And in the tougher times, we've seen some
Puts it to the test.
and it's failed and crashed and burned in some ways, which is really discouraging.
Right.
And I think that's why lenders end up having those knee-jerk reactions, because you extend the trust and you feel like the character's there, and when it's not, it's surprising, and then it's like being a little bit suspicious sometimes, like,
Yeah.
do you have the character?
It's like, really, when you flip those around, it is what lenders out there are the dealers in a different conversation with
Mhm.
their customer. It's like, do they have the character? Do they
You'll
not have
find
the
out when
character?
times are tough.
You'll find out when times are tough.
Right.
Yeah. And I just, that's just, this is a really, for me, a pretty powerful conversation about, that are we walking our talk
Mhm.
too, for one thing?
Sure.
So, are we, when we ask our customers to let us know, be honest, come and sit down, let's, if things get heavy, whatever, that we can figure out a solution to that.
Mhm.
And then in return, the dealers, lenders are asking the same thing. And so it really is, it's about high integrity in how you move and what you expect of
Yeah.
others.
And I think if you
Yeah.
look at let's just look at the debtor side, and whether you're talking about the customer or the
Mhm.
dealer borrower,
Uh-huh.
as we're touching on here, it's like anybody can have a momentary lapse in communication or kind of get distracted
Yeah.
or maybe have a period where they're not sure what to say or what to do. That can happen. But I think character prevails. If you're high
Mhm.
integrity, high character,
Mhm.
then that would prevail and you would come to the conversation and you would, be able to work through the thing. So that's going to be true of any kind of borrower
Uh-huh.
who has an obligation,
Absolutely.
right? And so, it's I'm
And
glad we took time to talk about this.
yeah, and when you think about when you have had to have a conversation that's difficult
Mhm.
to have, well, turn the tides again.
Yeah.
It's like, is it really, are we creating a relationship with our customers that really helps them, even in the hardest of times, feel like they have an open door and can come and talk to you about it?
Yeah. And listen, we're going to run a little long today. And I would just say hang with us because there's quite a lot still on this, second half of this video that is significant. It's
Yeah.
really important. So I would say if you have to break away, come back, which
Yeah.
this is on YouTube. And of course, you can find it wherever you're picking up the podcast today.
Yeah.
So
We thought you did. Do you?
Maybe take a look
Right.
at your list again.
Right. Yeah.
Like, Adam.
yeah.
Well, and that's actually one of the things with White Hat Way, that as we develop a certification program and those kind of things, that not just that they're getting education at the conferences, you know that they're not just getting education from their 20 groups or things like that, but they're also getting an education around ethics and principles and connecting with your customers and being an active participant in your community.
And I think what we're trying to illustrate with that is that it's not that we don't meet dealers that have character and principles. One of the things we look to do is help them through education, help them understand the value in that. Is having one, telling that story, two, seeing the benefit in our buy here, pay here, and lease here, pay here space. This idea that when we take good care of the customer and we think long term, this can be the benefit, this can be the benefit. And so just helping them connect the dots on, lean into that character, tell your story, let your community get to know you, right? So this is part of what we expect.
And it's interesting when you have that kind of relationship, you have it with the dealer has it with the customer, that there's a lot more grace all around.
Right.
There
And
100%
yeah.
is. And I think there's this hidden C in character that we don't always identify, and it's courage. Because it takes a lot of courage in those tougher moments to really lean into your character.
Amen.
And it's so much easier to flee and take the easier path, but it takes courage to have the harder conversations, whether it's with your team member or your peer or your lender. Say, gosh, here's what's actually going on under the hood. Yeah. And it's not as good as I was thinking.
Let me pause right there.
I'm an optimist, or a Pollyanna. Those of you.
When he talks about courage, and I recently wrote this in an article that's not yet been published, but I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past, is I think this is an example of where there's a fear factor, right? That I feel like if we make it about dealers and consumers for a moment, there's like a fear element that doesn't get talked about. Dealers at the time of underwriting have a little bit of fear around making a bad decision and doing business with somebody who's not who's not got great character. That's the fear factor. We're a little nervous of the customer, right? In this brand new relationship. And then the same thing with the consumer. They're looking at the dealer, with a little bit of fear. And so when we talk about courage, to me, it's like overcoming that fear about that, whatever that looks like. Or if it's a dealer and their lender, having the courage to overcome that fear about what kind of repercussions might come from being transparent and honest. Like it does take courage. And I think I'm glad he mentioned it because it's something that, something we doesn't get talked about enough.
dates me.
Go ahead.
I understand. But I'm an optimist and I really do believe that people are good. And sometimes they don't know how to show they're being good. And they don't have the skill set to have the hard conversations. And so that, that's something else that it comes with experience. And it also comes with teaching and training. And I know from just personal experience, the first time you have those hard conversations, they suck. The next time you have to have a hard conversation with someone, it's easier. It's you still are doing it with grace and generosity and kindness and all of that, but it's you've already experienced what happens on the other side, and so there's not as much fear about having those kind of conversations. So yes, courage is it's a big part of
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, I think stepping into that, and we all know we've been in that place where we have to have an uncomfortable
Oh my
conversation.
goodness.
Right?
We do that every week.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
We're pros.
Sunday night at 7.
We should record it, Eddie.
Yeah. So it's so interesting. In the session today, we talked about the 3 C's, which are common in the lending space, and then we added culture, and we added compliance.
Compliance was one that,
And now we got courage. So
Yeah.
it's just another.
We're like going to
element
have 17 C's by the time we're done, but that's
I have
okay.
some C's to add for you.
Oh.
Yeah. Are you ready for?
Yes.
There's chemistry also.
Ooh.
Oh,
Because
yeah, of
chemistry is
course. I like
really
that.
good. Chemistry is
Mhm.
part of the relationship that you either have with
Right.
industry
Mhm.
affiliates, your
Yeah,
team
it's
members.
Wait,
and
I thought chemistry started with a K.
He doesn't spell it
It's a
well.
joke.
Okay.
It's a joke. I thought you knew I was so no, that's important. The chemistry
Chemistry.
element is
Throw another one at me.
And competency. I think competency is really important
How do
too.
you-
So competency, it depends what category we're looking at.
Okay.
C for category.
So it's like I'm really competent in a kitchen cooking. But
But
does that make me competent
are you
under
competent
the hood
in
of
your
a car?
or in your financial statements that you're
Exactly.
providing to
Yeah.
your lender?
Okay.
Are you competent collector?
Mhm.
I mean, how many C's can we throw out there?
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many more.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think
That's
for me,
episode 7. Okay.
This is like a game that we play with my daughters where we just start saying all the words we can that start with C.
There you go.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if you guys get. I so enjoy Tim.
Oh yeah.
Just such a fun person to talk to.
Sure.
Anyway, he's
Yeah.
got a really, really fun sense of
He
humor.
does.
He does.
And he
he's
puts up
very
with ours.
articulate. And he puts up with ours.
Right.
Yeah, we get to play off of each other a lot.
Very
No,
good.
I think
Very
the other
good.
thing we see in competency, like for me as a consultant analyst who works with a lot of dealers, we urge dealers to get more familiar with their numbers and their metrics. We want them to know their numbers,
Oh,
get
yeah.
really, because, in its simplest form, dealers want to show up and they want to buy cars and sell cars and collect car payments, right? Or lease cars. And so then the question becomes, okay, so in order to really be effective in managing our business, we've got to get familiar with these other metrics so that we're running our business and our business isn't running us. It's kind of the thing that as an analyst advisor, something that we see with dealers. And we're happy to help them. They first have to admit it and be coachable, and it will help them, figure out what those things are.
Coachable.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
another
one.
C.
Look at that.
You said
Coachable.
17, so I think
Yeah.
we're at
we
like
have
11.
a few more. I mean,
I
well,
think
we have a
we're
few more
close.
days. Okay.
Okay, tomorrow and Thursday.
Yeah, no, that's all good. So yeah, I think we wanted to have a chance to share a little bit more about your background with White Hat Way too. You guys stepped in right away as a founding
Yes.
sponsor. We're grateful for that because what that does is help us go tell the story, reach more people to be able to showcase what it looks like to be a dealer of character, a dealer who's solid in their community, right? So
And it helps to have vendors of character
Right.
that are saying, we love what you're doing. And just even having that support is just, it's high value. And so we just really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, immediately we were happy to jump on board because it aligns with our values and aligns with what we want in not just industry partners, but with our borrowers, of course. But it's also it was really cool to be at the pioneering standpoint too. Of like,
Yeah.
this is it's a novel concept to promote this way. And if we can be aligned with it in a way that broadcasts across the space, we're happy to do it.
Yeah, good.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
you.
And I can say you were a party to a recent email thread that was an example of one of the things that I feel like White Hat Way, by being,
Yeah.
it's not about Jim, it's not about Michelle, it's about this
It's a
thing that we point
movement.
to that is like, look, can we just illustrate what it looks like to be transparent? It's one thing to say the word,
Yep.
It's another thing to go and show what transparency really looks like. And so you saw the thread that was in the context of DMS. We proposed to the DMS
Really
provider,
exciting.
would you please provide this for our dealer users, even if we don't know them, let's provide this because we think back to the metrics. It's going to be easier for them to manage their business. They're going to be more successful when we provide this for them. So this is, I think, a voice that you can expect to see White Hat Way will continue to
Well,
be.
and the reports are being named White Hat reports. Yes.
And we
so-
appreciate you guys adding your voice to those initiatives, right?
Yes.
It's just a way for us to all say, look, we're
It's
just trying to do a
exciting
good
to
thing.
see it start to gain some momentum.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Okay,
that's-
wait, back
okay,
up because
wait.
this was cool. The email that you guys sent out with the DMS stuff, I was thrilled. As soon as I read it, I wanted to wait and see what is going to happen with this email. And I was thrilled to see Jonathan Hetty jump in right away and say, "Hey, we would love to participate. Totally
Yeah.
open
Yep.
book."
Yeah.
I thought that was phenomenal.
We have others you didn't see in the thread. We have about 3 or 4 that stepped in right away and said,
Yeah.
yes, we want to be a part of it.
Yep.
And so that's a really positive example of what we can do together because it really is, it's a collective effort. We're just trying to make sure that this thing that we talk about is like, when we rally around that thing, we can really make a big difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and DMS systems in some way are kind of like the restaurants that are all in the same shopping center. They're not the right fit for every
Everybody.
single person.
Of
Right.
course.
So, but
I
some
think
of them
I
are
want an
really,
egg roll and a pizza slice.
but
and
for
some-
some people, it's gonna make more sense
Yes.
to be with one versus another
Sure.
based off of how the chemistry that they have
Yeah.
with whoever the DMS provider is.
Yes.
How they feel like the functionality works with them,
Yes.
what their actual business needs.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's okay to have it all together. And same with lenders. We're not the right fit for everybody. And
Right.
same.
Yeah. And so we know
Yeah,
that
you probably couldn't handle if you had every lease here, pay here dealer on the planet or in the
Don't look at
States.
Trevor. He's like nodding,
Not-
probably
he's like,
nodding
we-
his
I
head.
think
He's
we
like,
can
of
do
course
it.
we can. Of course we can.
There's a lot of people in California. We'll hire a lot of people.
Trevor's like, I'm sorry, I walked over here with you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, it's,
Very good.
it is an important thing. We think that example again about the DMS is like, we expect, because it was proposed that we would go forward with a forum where we can, and what we pledged right away is we'll be happy to facilitate and host the forum, and we will pledge to make sure it is a level playing
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
And that it will benefit dealers, right? And
Yep.
so
So
we-
be watching for that on Buy Here Pay Here Nation Television, with White Hat Way being the one that's presenting this entire broadcast and forum. So it's going to be amazing.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
Looking
I can
forward to
say,
it.
as a former dealer, talking to a lender to dealer, that dealers have a difficult job, and we want to do anything we can to make their job easier, so that they can be more successful, their customer can be more successful, their lender can be more successful. All of those relationships can benefit in a
Everything
White Hat
rises.
environment,
Yeah.
and so we're just going to continue to beat that drum.
Yep.
You know,
Thank you
I'm
for
pleased to have you
beating
be
it
part
with
of
us. The drum.
So yeah, thanks for making time to come and chat. And we want to make sure folks know where to find LHPH Capital in the exhibit hall, the expo hall.
Yonder.
Yeah, over there.
Yeah,
Yep.
On
we
that side.
sent out. Did you see that we sent out to social media? It's like, here are our founding sponsors.
Where you find
Swing
the
by and
people.
see them while
That's
you're here.
awesome.
So yes, thank you
Because
for
they're-
wearing your badge too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's
Appreciate it.
very cool buttons that say White House or White
White
Hat
Hat Way.
Way on them. So if you want to stop by our booth or some of the other founding sponsors and
Yeah.
wear them with pride, you're welcome to.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well,
Thank
thanks
you,
for
thank you,
helping
thank
to
you.
spread the message, and we know
Appreciate
you
you
guys
joining.
align with those things that are White Hat Way.
And we'll get Trevor on next time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks
Thank
so
you
much
so
for
much.
joining
Thanks,
us.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, good stuff.
Well, you can tell the relationship with them is excellent. We always talk about we like to know the people behind the product. And so when you refer a dealer, you like to know who these folks are and who you're doing business with and try to reassure them. And obviously being a White Hat founding sponsor says a lot about what's important to them. And I think the other thing you see in our founding sponsors, they all been around a long time. They all,
Yeah, they have.
and
They
they
have.
all really lean in with education, right? They contribute a lot when it comes to education. And so this is a natural thing for us to talk about on the White Hat
So we
Wednesday.
have something that we haven't got it on the calendar yet, and that's actually something we've been working on. Some things for our roadmap for the next little bit. Would probably be a good thing. And I was as I was listening to about doing this. Well, actually, what Dealer Center, the CEO, whatever, well, not Dillpack, sorry, Dillpack. He's like, let's do some kind of a forum,
Right.
and then we can talk about each one of the, the features and the benefits and everything of that. And so what ran through my head, instead of doing a dealer roundup, we do a vendor roundup.
Oh, that could work. I think we got to really think through the format there. We want to limit pitching, and we'll figure out the exact format.
Well, it's really hard when you're talking about what, it's like, let's talk about your product.
Yeah.
You're going to get pitched.
Well,
but
I think what we're going to want to do is allow them a short pitch so that they can, hit the high points of their stuff. I think what we want to do is kind of present it in a more sterile way, I guess, is kind of side by side, and does it have this, yes or no? And so I think that's what you can expect to see out of the forum. And I'm thinking September, but we haven't set a date, as you said, but we do want to move forward with that while there's momentum around that conversation, and get that on the calendar.
I like that. I like that a lot. Did we want to talk about the other thing, or are we going to save that for another day?
Let's save it.
We're going to save it for. We got another thing that we're going to save for another day, because I think we've kept you too long.
Yeah.
It's great conversation. I always enjoy Tim so much. He's just so delightful. All right. Well,
nothing else?
Friday.
Yeah, Friday we have Tracy Myers again coming to talk about their event, which is a mastermind event done in conjunction with the Carolinas Association, I believe. And so we'll get all those details from Tracy on Friday. Be sure and tune in for that one. And then Monday we'll be talking about charge-offs. And then Wednesday, Taylor Bird, our other founding sponsor, we've got video from him. And so we'll do the same with Wednesday.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you giving us part of your day. And we will be back on Friday. Have yourself a great rest of your Wednesday, and happy 4th of July.
Yeah, have a safe and enjoyable 4th.
Enjoy.